Our first speaker is Harmon Gouhin. He entered Columbus Academy in kindergarten. His sister Chloe graduated in 2021. His brother Sean graduated last year.
My brother and I were playing Xbox when I decided for no reason to start messing with him. It began with just calling him names, but quickly turned to smacking him just to get on his nerves. In no time, my annoyances quickly turned for the worst when he spun around, grabbed my shirt, and completely mollywopped me in the face. I quickly ran to my dad for protection from my brother's beating, but all he had to say was, "Well, I'm not sure what you expected." Altercations like these happen frequently with Sean, my older brother, mentor, but simultaneously my arch nemesis. Throughout my childhood, Sean and I have had more fights than it would be possible to count. The pettiness ranges from my calling the cops on him for not letting me play Xbox when it was my turn, to when he made me cry by telling me our parents never wanted to have me and that it was just an accident. Everything between us would become a competition, even who is taller than who. This still continues to this day. When we take a photo, Sean tries to go on his tippy toes, even though that trick stopped working many years ago when I outgrew him for good. Although most altercations between us were verbal, it wasn't uncommon for us to get into a sparring brawl. Like when I threw an Xbox controller at his head as hard as I possibly could, which came with consequences 10-year-old me can never imagine. Or the one time on the way to basketball practice in 4th grade, when he punched me in the eye because he said simply, "You mess around too much." This left Coach Seymour in awe as she watched little Harmon walk into the gym 5 minutes late with a swollen eye and tears dribbling down his face, which all I was able to say was, "Sean punched me," in a quivering voice. At a ripe young age, our relationship was very much considered only two things: love and hate. We'd go from having a great time playing Xbox to throwing down in the living room, leaving me running for my mom. Still, I'd always try to tag along with him and his friends until he'd get so frustrated that he would begin scolding me in front of everyone, telling me how annoying I was and to leave them alone. This would always leave me in tears because, though I hate to admit it now, I was a notorious crybaby. But as the years went on, we slowly started becoming more friends than foes. He began to allow me to come with him and his friends when we were at the country club, but with one stipulation: I had to become their servant for the day. Younger me didn't seem to care though, because I always thought it was the coolest thing in the world to be able to hang out with my older brother and his friends. But my connection with Sean didn't really flourish until I started high school. Seeing him every day made it easier for me to bond with him and connect over things we usually wouldn't talk about out of school. The relationship between us had improved so much that he finally let me play Rainbow Six Siege with him and his friends. I could even hear him raging through the headset, as well as the walls of our house. As our relationship continued to grow stronger, I realized that maybe I was a problem when we were younger. Always instigating every situation, which reasonably caused my brother to lash out at me. But it finally seemed as though he had stopped viewing me as his annoying little brother and more as a close friend. Of course, with the occasional insignificant arguments about whose turn it was to take out the trash, but even those seemed to dissipate as quickly as they had started. My mom always talks about how she was so lucky that my brother and I only fought when we were younger, because she and her sisters would nearly give my grandma heart attacks in high school with their epic battles. But as the school year started to come to a close, my brother's final bell came around. The inevitable fact that Sean would be leaving soon for college was becoming more and more undeniable. And I could tell he knew that too, when I found him with tears in his eyes celebrating with his friends. That night, when I came home, I started thinking about how often I took for granted the time I spent with him. All the times I can remember when I would bicker with Sean for no reason caused a new sense of guilt and regret to set in. From that point to the time he would leave for college, I made it my goal to make the most of our time together over the next 2 months. Whenever I wasn't spending my time on the sports I play, I'd always find a way to be with my brother. From walking in his room completely uninvited, just to sit on his bed and watch him play Xbox, I made it a priority to hang out with Sean. If we weren't playing Xbox, then we'd go golfing or play pickup basketball with our friends in the backyard. Although I knew he'd be leaving soon, the realization never really hit me till the day he started packing his bags. He called me into his room to help get his clothes and belongings together, and the emptiness of the room made my heart drop. As we continued cleaning it out and packing up his things, he asked if I was going to miss him, which I replied jokingly, "Only a little." Although he knew I was kidding, I admitted that I wasn't ready for him to leave. And we had a rare heart-to-heart talk about how adjusting to being the only child at home would be difficult for me. When the day finally came and it was time for him to leave, it was hard for me to see him go, although I knew it was best for him. I knew Sean was ready for the next phase in his life, even if I wasn't. And since he's left, I've learned how to live without depending on my older brother to do everything for me. But I have to admit, it's a lot quieter and a lot less fun without him at home. And although I've matured since our childhood, I wouldn't mind one more time roughhousing, even when it got too rough. Or another silly argument about the most irrelevant thing ever, just to spend a little more time with him. Sean will always be my mentor, arch nemesis, but most importantly, my big brother. Thank you.